And this conversation with you guys with 31 years of experience is more beneficial and more believable and more important, I think, than what anybody we don't know behind a keyboard can give us.
And we were talking about the experience thing, and the years is impressive. Dad, how many elk kills have you been on in your life?
I'll have to go back and look at the exact number this year, but I think I ended this last season right around 580.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Wow.
I mean, people talk about the elk hunting experience they've had, you know, and all this, oh, I've shot this, I've shot that, I've done this, I've done that. Weston, how many elk kills were you on last year alone?
Last year or last season?
Season.
Yeah.
Season's going to be June to June.
So last season, I was on 43 elk kills personally. Watching.
In one season.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to your new podcast and favorite podcast, Beyond the Target, with your host, Jeromy.
And Rob.
And we are here today with some very special guests who have decided to join us all the way from Arizona.
Yes, this is Timberland Outfitters. They are hunting guides down in Arizona, and they have 30 or plus more years experience, correct?
Yeah, we were just talking about it. It's been 31 years that since my dad Lance here opened the business.
31 years. So the idea with this podcast is to ask some hunting guides with 31 years of experience some controversial questions about hunting. You guys up for that?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Bring it on.
So why don't we start off with why don't you tell everybody who you are and exactly what you do for your business?
My name is Lance Crowther, owner of Timberland Outfitters, and it's a family-run business with a couple of good friends. We like to keep it small and personal. We got lots of people all over the state of Arizona for all species here. You guys got something to add to that?
Yeah,
that was your cue.
We guide for a bunch of different species in Arizona: elk, mule deer, coos deer, are kind of the main ones. Antelope, bighorn sheep in there as well. Really, the only thing we don't guide for in Arizona is mountain lion. We don't have dogs. We don't run dogs. He used to back when I was a little toddler, but it's been a long time. And we're too busy doing everything else to have time for that, you know.
Okay. Now, you said you like to keep it small, Lance. Is this small as in keep it within family, or do you have, you know, other guides that is not family that come in and help out as well?
So we have a couple of guides that aren't family that have been good friends for most of my life. So they're pretty much like family. But I guess what I mean is a lot of big outfits will take on any client and then try to find a guide who can do that hunt. We have our small group, and once we're filled up, we don't take on anybody else. And so it's very personal. You know who you're getting every time. You know their experience in the area. And yes, it's a business, but hunting is a very personal thing. And so we like to keep that aspect in there.
Very cool.
Yeah. And sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
Go ahead.
So between Rob and I am the big hunter. I've been hunting since I was in diapers, you know. Grew up with it. I love it. Always on public land out here in Utah. And I can appreciate what you're saying by keeping it small, not overbooking yourself. Utah has come to a place where you have a lot of big outfitters who are trophy hunting. They're just trying to push the next biggest thing, and it's not so much about the whole experience as it is about the kill. And I think as a hunting community, not all, but there are a good section where we've lost sight of the core memories of enjoying the actual hunt compared to just the moment of the kill. And so I appreciate that. And I think that's amazing that you guys do that, that you're not there trying to be the next greatest, biggest thing, but you're trying to provide a very quality core memory hunt, you know, for your customers. Is that what would you call them, customers or clients?
Yeah.
Yeah, clients.
Yeah.
Clients.
And that kind of ties right in with the motto for TLO is making memories. That's what we're about.
I love that.
Very cool. So we've met Lance and Ty. One person hasn't talked yet. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Weston. I'm the younger brother here. I'm the one that runs around and gets everything killed.
He's the reason we don't need dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. If a mountain needs climbed, that's who we send.
Oh, okay. He's still young enough and not broken.
I'm the legs.
We've already mentioned that you've been in business for 31 years. And Ty, you went over all the different types of animals that you hunt. What makes, and you know, I'd like all three of you to answer this if you know, someone doesn't take an answer from you or you can think of a different answer. But what would you say makes hunting in Arizona so unique compared to other places?
One of the things that makes Arizona so special, besides all the different species that we have, is that Arizona is accessible. One, it's all public land. And, you know, I talk to people from back east all the time and they ask me, well, do you hunt public or private? And we tell them we hunt public accessible land. And they're like, oh, that's horrible. And where they're from, that is the voodoo, bad thing, you know. But I tell them, don't imagine it like public land back east. You got to imagine it like Alaska is public land. And think of all the thousands and thousands of square miles that we have available to us. And that land is accessible because it's, compared to like our northern Rocky Mountain states, it's pretty flat. We got our mountains and we got back country, but there's roads all over the place. So if you have a medical condition or you're just getting older and you can't hike those steep Rocky Mountains anymore, or maybe your metabolism isn't as quick as that skinny guy, you can still access monster bulls and monster bucks. That's what I think is really special about Arizona, is everybody can get in there and do it. Very unique country. What do you think, Ty?
That about wraps it up. I think Arizona's unique in how many different landscapes there are in one state. If you have everything from flat, wide open grasslands to alpine forests to Sonoran desert and everything in between. Take, for example, I was heavily hunting this last weekend with my family, my wife and kids, and we were down in the Cholla jungle, just a few miles off the border. We literally stayed in a house in a tiny town, 150 yards off the Mexico fence. And real quiet place right there. And we had a fantastic hunting javelina. We saw some coos deer, and just an hour away, we were able to go up Mount Lemmon there in Tucson, and that takes you up to 8,000 feet, and you're in ponderosa pine trees and snow. It's the southernmost ski resort, I think, in the northern hemisphere, and we were able to do that from one extreme of 3,000 feet to 8,000 feet and all of the terrains in between in about an hour and a half.
That is really unique, and that makes it very fun for anybody who comes to travel, that you have such a variety of animals and terrains just to see. I wanted to follow up to Rob's question. kind of spin it just a little bit here and ask the types of hunts that you guide. With today's, society, we have multiple ways to hunt where you're doing public. My question is, do you guys go in on foot? Do you use ATVs, UTVs? Do you use horseback? And then once you, obtain the animal, do you guys just pack it out on foot, or do you usually go back for goats? Or, I've even seen people use some good mules. Those things are tanks. So how's your hunting method done?
So we've been doing this for, 31 years. And I could say back in the old days, we used to hunt a lot more of the rough country, the biggest mountains, the deepest canyons. But as we got more and more clients, they all do that. And so we started looking for hunts that were more accessible for everybody, which is easy to do in Arizona because of that, the variety of terrain that we have that we just talked about. And so we wanted to be able to hunt all of our hunters, the guys that are in shape and the guys that aren't in shape and the old guys and whatever, all in the same area so that we could all be together, we could all teamwork. And so over the years, we've hunted all over Arizona. I feel like we've really refined our hunts down to specific areas where we can get anybody in there. We can still hunt the same class animals, the same big animals. Everybody gets a chance of hunting trophy animals, but we're doing it actually in easier places. We used to do a lot of rough pack outs. I've got pictures of these boys when they were, 10 and 14 years old, packing elk out of the roughest, nastiest places ever. And then we started hiring mules to do it. And now
For the pack out part,
just
not
as good. Yeah, we kill just as good or better animals, and we're doing it where we can retrieve them easily. Elk in Arizona, you can drive to an elk in most areas up to a mile off the road. And in Arizona, if you're driving a mile off the road, you're getting close to another road, or you've crossed two other roads. And so, say for instance, for elk, we can get anybody in there and we can kill these big bulls and we can drive the truck to it and we can be out hunting again later that day. And that's what I mean by we've refined our choices of where we hunt. And when we apply people, we tell them, hey, this is what you need to apply for. This is the hunt that we want you on. So, because we know we can provide this for you and we can get all of our clients in there if possible so that we can all work as a team. And when we're all in the same unit, I don't want to sound cocky, but I kind of feel sorry for the elk sometimes.
That's good. That's years of experience is what that comes down to.
Because we have a family, and we just all know each other and we know what each other's going to do. We know what each other's thinking and we just work off of each other. And we spent so much time in these areas and we've done so much homework and we've just lived in these areas that a lot of times we know where the animals are going before they do. When we see elk take off this way, we know that we can meet them over here 2 miles away. And that just really translates into that, into that success for our clients.
So I want to hear from Weston again. So I know quite a bit about what you guys do through Ty. For those, that don't know this, Ty is my nephew through marriage. He married my niece. And so that's kind of why we're able to have this podcast today. But I want to know, do you, Weston, I know that you are involved in almost every hunt because of Ty, and he sends me pictures that you send him of the kills, and and like the bullets and the wound channels and all that stuff. In your opinion, besides like what you think is unique about hunting in Arizona, can you also answer along with that what Jeremy's question was, like
The pack out.
the pack out? Yeah.
What?
Like, cause again, they said you're like the dog, right? I imagine you're like the pack out person as well.
Yeah.
Being the mule, yeah.
I've been compared to just about any animal out there by everybody that walks behind me in the woods. Most commonly mountain goat, hound dog.
Yeah. I've heard gazelle.
Gazelle,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's quick and he's quiet.
Yeah.
And don't watch his ankles, you get seasick.
I don't know what the problem is with my ankles. They land where they land and they catch me. I don't have to watch my feet in the woods. I've been running through so long. I don't know, rubber ankles that are made of steel for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, the pack outs these days, like my dad was saying, it's very easy stuff. Most of the time we're within a half mile of a road anywhere we kill our elk. And then most of the places we can drive to them, which is very nice. For things that
close,
or at least drive closer.
Yeah.
For the deer that we hunt, those are usually our toughest pack outs of the year. And I think coos deer are usually our hardest pack outs, because of where they live. They're in their big mountains, steep, jagged rocks all over usually. And then top of
Now, just for me and not just for the listeners too, a coos deer, they're about what, 150 pounds max?
100.
Not even. Yeah. 120 maybe on the high end.
Okay. So a very large dog, and then once you get it quartered, it might be an additional like 60 pounds on your pack, but it's not so much the animal, it's the location.
Yeah. But what it is you also, you have your rifle, you have your tripod, you have your spotting scope, you got your 15s for glassing, you got your 10s that are on your chest, your rangefinder, your food and water for the day. By the time you throw a whole about a quartered coos deer in there, you're knocking on a 100-pound pack.
Well, isn't that your job, Weston? Don't you take, or doesn't Weston take all that, and then you, Ty, get to just sit back and watch with your 15 power?
Yeah. I've had my pack lessons.
Yeah, I make 3 trips before Ty can make 1.
I'll stay here and cut it up, Weston. You go ahead and start making trips back to the truck.
There you go.
I mean, when you get multiple of us, it helps with the pack outs and stuff, obviously.
Yeah, it's very nice splitting it up.
Well, I think the reason that Jeromy asks the question is because of his experience this year when he went on his hunt for his mule deer. Why don't you tell him how you had to pack that deer?
Yes. So this was my first time solo hunting, and I was hunting on Mount Timpanogos out here in Utah, and I decided like an idiot to go up high. And so I went about as high as I could, and there was one hunter who was above me, and so I had to actually drop about probably 300 to 500 feet of elevation just to give him, an opportunity. It's public land. Well, fortunately, the deer came out about 200 yards straight below me, which was fantastic. So I was the first shot of the morning, sun's up at shooting hours is, 7:40 in the morning. I'd had mine down by 7:50. So it was a very quick solo hunt. And then I realized I was about 1,200 yards to the road by myself, and I'm like, I don't want to come back up for this. So I actually drug it the 1,200 yards all the way down to the road.
At least it was downhill.
So I'm curious how you guys do that, because for me, I've either gone on foot and I've had somebody with me, so we've quartered it, and 2 guys can usually split that. It's a hard hike, but you can get it out pretty good. Before that, I grew up hunting on horseback, so I didn't know what the struggle was before, because you would quarter it throw it in saddlebags, drape it over the deer, or drape it over the saddle, excuse me, and then you just walked out and the horse carried your animal. So that was always super easy. This was my first time. I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do this more than once a year.
Yeah. Dragging stuff is the hardest on you.
It is.
With everything that we kill, we quarter it up, put it in game bags, keep it all very, very clean, and pack it out in pieces. Yeah.
Even if we drive to it.
Yeah, we got a good way that's really efficient at doing it. Our game processor that we bring all of our stuff to in Flagstaff at Casey's Processing there, they say we bring in the cleanest meat, hands down. And the most meat off of quartered animals. I mean, the coyotes are sad when they follow us because there's nothing left as far as meat goes. And some people are worried, oh, don't you have to leave some meat? Nope, all that's left is bones and guts.
That's good.
That's
awesome.
Got a really good method to get all of the rib meat off, all of the other loose meat, your back straps, your tenderloins, and your legs and neck, all that stuff comes off. So really efficient at that. So we have, on average per animal, more stuff to pack out because we got so much meat off of it. And which is another reason of what pushes us to hunt the way we do, of trying getting to be closer to a road or whatever it may be. So our pack out is a little less brutal. We have plenty of really hard pack out stories. Don't get me wrong. I mean, hearing some of the nightmare stories from before I was born.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure Lance has some where they go up on horseback or something with 4 or 5, guns that day, and by 9 o'clock in the morning, there's 4 or 5, dead animals. They're like, now what do we do?
Yeah.
You spend the next 3 days packing out.
Yeah, or without horses. I definitely learned a lot in my younger years, and my boys have benefited from that for sure.
Great. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So be grateful.
Yes.
We are spoiled rotten.
Now, you guys have mentioned a lot that you do. I'm curious as a hunter, if I was to, book your outfit here, what do you allow me to do? If I wanted to pack out my own animal, could I go with Weston and pack it out? Or is this, you kind of sit back and we do everything for you? Or do you work with your clients and kind of cater the hunt to how they would like it to go?
How they want, what they want to do. All that stuff you're talking about is part of the fun and the memories.
Absolutely.
And the more that our hunters want to participate in that, the happier we are, and the happier they're going to be. Like I said, it's all part of the memories. Yeah, we encourage it. Jump in here, get bloody, put some more weight on there. Let's back this thing out. Some people they're really looking forward to that.
Yep.
Like, oh, I can't wait for this Western hunt pack out. And then we drive the truck to it. Like, oh, I'm like, that's all right. That's all right. Put this on your shoulder. We'll take some pictures of you like you're packing it out. And you can tell your buddies you packed it out.
The 20 yards truck.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because even when we can drive the truck to it, we still quarter it up right there.
Yep.
It's the best way to cool off your meat and get it in manageable pieces and nice and clean. So even when we drive the truck to it, we quarter it up right there on the ground and put it in the truck in nice, easy, manageable pieces. And then if we got a long pack out, we'll debone everything and then pack it out that way.
Yeah, that's good. That's how I had to do. That's how I learned too as a solo hunter, was quartering with the hide on, and it adds a little extra weight on those long pack outs. So I get it. And anybody who's done it understands that if you can get a truck there sometimes a little closer, it can make all the difference though.
And as far as like that pack out and the client's involvement of it also is going to depend on their physical ability, and we give them as much or as little as they want to do or can do. To some guys, they barely got themselves there. They've waited this long for an elk tag. This might be their last elk tag that they get. It just depends on, and that's why they hired a guide too, is they need the help to get out of the woods. We've run into people that weren't our clients in the woods that who knows what would have happened if they killed an elk by themselves, and we've had a couple of scenarios where we've been able to help other people in the woods when we see them, when we get a chance. And it just goes to show, like, there's no shame in hiring a guide. Some people are like, oh, well, that's just somebody else hunting for you. It's like part of it, but you may not also have the physical ability or the resources to go hunt another state and be successful at it,
Even your own state.
or even your own state.
When you were dragging that deer off the hill, don't you wish you had some friends with you at that time?
Oh, yes, I sure did. I called Rob right here off the mountain, and I'm like, dude, the day's already over, but it's just starting. I'm like, I called Rob. I had Buck down, and I was just kind of chilling, waiting, making sure he was down. And I'm on the phone with Rob, Buck down. And then I realized I'm all by myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 7:50 in the morning. I don't think I got back to my truck until 5, 6 o'clock that night, and it wasn't that far, but it was still far enough that one guy, when you're doing that kind of work, it's time consuming. Elevation, you don't consider how winded you get like that. You have to catch your breath a lot more frequently, and then you're falling constantly. I don't know about you guys, but I took a few antlers in places that it shouldn't go very frequently on that pull out. So there's just things that people don't consider, or maybe forget if you haven't done it, but it can be pretty challenging. And I probably would have paid to have someone come do that.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like how you pay to do everything else in your life. You go on vacation, you pay to stay at somebody's hotel, you hire a plumber, you hire an electrician. You didn't go and build your own car. Somebody else built that for you. You earn your money to pay for these things, and going out and buying a new car, you're still happy about it, even though you didn't build it. So people who hire guides or get their buddies to help, they've earned it. They've done their work.
I agree.
Yeah. And our hunters put in plenty of work.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
They put in plenty of work, and to the best of their ability, kind of back to that whatever their ability is. We have some hunters that are champ hunters, which is a challenged hunter access mobility permit. For disabled people can obtain a special permit where they get certain kind of restrictions lifted for them. Where they can shoot from the vehicle versus having to get out, and stuff like that, where you get this special permit for that. We have plenty of those guys that are champ hunters, and we get to work around what they have to work with. If they can walk, if they can't walk, if they can only walk short distances, if they can't hardly see at all, but if they might be mostly deaf, we've seen a lot and been very successful with a lot of different scenarios. And so that's part of what my dad was saying earlier, of we work with our hunters when we're applying them, what hunt would best fit them, but also where we can get as much of our crew in the same unit as possible, so we can have a team effort into making everybody's hunt successful for all of our clients in that area. That's where we find the most success, is where we can team multiple guides up with multiple clients. We don't ever pair clients together that didn't book it together, and so each guy will have their own guide, or if they're two buddies booked up with one guide, they'll be with him. And but all of the guides in that unit will work together. All of our guides will work together to help each other out and move the animals around as needed, whatever it is, chase them around, glass them up, and and call him whatever.
That's where Weston comes in. We
Yeah.
send him out on foot to track them down,
Mm-hmm.
and he lets us know where they're going while he's tracking them.
Yeah.
You know, I just got to throw this out there. I like Weston's job. I've done that for so many years that I've come to appreciate it, and now I have sometimes more fun just doing that, not even packing the rifle. You know, I just love being out there in the country, making moves for other people, doing the hard hikes for other people. It's, you know, as we mentioned in the beginning, it's about those core memories. It's about the actual hunt and not so much about the kill. And I think we've lost sight of that sometimes. Not all the times, but sometimes.
All three of you should have a different answer for this. I would assume, because it's a pretty big question. What's the most memorable or challenging hunt you've ever guided?
That's such a hard question.
Most challenging is definitely the most memorable, but there's plenty of other positively memorable hunts. You know, I've had hunts where it's either a really hard time, you know, hard unit, hard time of year, whatever it may be. You know, we got some pretty serious restrictions on mobility or what we're able to do and how we're able to hunt with the client we're with, to the other extreme of we're in tears when we get an animal down because of who we're with and what we did to get there and what that person's been through, the point of life that they're in, you know. I would say one of my most memorable hunts that comes to mind is I was with a client. It was a late rifle bull hunt. It was just me and him in this unit, and there's a lot of some rim country and some canyons in there, and we were poking around. We had passed up some bulls, and it's getting towards the latter part of the hunt, and we finally find a nice 6-point bull that we were looking for, and my client was shooting my gun. It was a 300 Win Mag, and we were 670 yards. And he shoots his first shot. He had a little bit of buck fever and missed. And the bull moves over and he shoots again and hits it. He made a good hit. It was about center punch, so not the best, but enough to make the bull not go anywhere. And the bull laid down and his adrenaline got the best of him. He lost it. I mean, he was super excited. He started shooting. I'm like, hold on, stop. You need to stop, take a minute, calm down, do some dry fire practice. The bull's not going anywhere. He's laid down. We can see him in this gap in the trees. Take your time, make some good shots. He did some dry fire practice. I would load it for him and not put a round in, and then he'd shoot, click. Oh, I'm like, you did it again. And we sat there for 5-6 minutes trying to work him back down, calling it, because it's such an exciting experience. You know, we wouldn't do it if it wasn't exciting and fun and having a good time. Just sometimes it gets the better of us. You know, I don't think anybody's above buck fever. Anyways, he makes a couple more good shots. Bull goes down. It's now dark. I watched that bull tip over as I could no longer see it in my spotting scope. I had the client hike down. He was in good shape. He got over, found the bull. I hike across this canyon after I walked him into where it was. And it's beginning of December, and it's cold. It got down to 12 degrees that night. And I wasn't in a super big hurry. It was a beautiful night, clear, and we were just having a good time talking about all the stuff under the moon and cutting this bull up, taking our time. We built a fire, had a little campfire going, keep us warm. We'd take a break when our fingers would start to freeze up and go over and warm up, you know. And I think we got back to the truck. We hung up all the meat, and then we hiked out with the head and cape. And we got back to the truck like 1 a.m, which is abnormally late, but we were also a ways and across the canyon from the truck. And we packed out some of the meat and stuff like that night. And yeah, 12 degrees, but just how beautiful of an experience that was, that we were able to get that bull in the location where he was, partly due to the rifle that we had and the bullet choice there, but also just to be able to have the weather to take our time and have a good and memorable night. He actually framed a picture of that bull with us in there, and he sent it to me after the hunt, and I still talk about it, you know, today. It's one of my favorite moments, is just sitting around that fire, going back and forth, cutting up that bull, and having such a beautiful full moon to look up at.
I'd love to hear people explain what buck fever is. I mean, with your guys' experience, you've seen probably a lot of forms of it. You know, I mean, I still get it to this day. Every time I get down there, it's like I was my first hunt again, you know. But I want to hear you explain, what is buck fever?
Oh man. In short, oh man, how to explain it?
It's so, unless you've experienced it, it's so hard to explain.
It is overwhelming for sure.
Adrenaline rush.
It's an adrenaline rush. Your body, and I think part of it is primal instinct, where, you know, cavemen are hunting with spears and stuff, and they need a little shot of adrenaline to take down this leopard or this deer or whatever they're hunting back then, right? They need something to give them a little more oomph, to tune their senses in, because your senses do become heightened when you're on adrenaline. You become stronger. You know, you hear about these stories of a woman in a car accident, her kids are trapped under the car, and she just goes over and flips the car and pulls her kids out. Next day, she's about ripped in half from tearing all of her muscles in the act, but she didn't think about it, and she just did it, you know? You get that level almost of adrenaline in that moment. And I think part of it is a natural response to being about to take that life, and your body's reaction to heighten your senses and give you the strength you need. And in the same time, it also messes you up, because what makes a good shot? A nice, smooth, steady trigger pull, you know, and that's anything but an adrenaline rush, right? And so it oftentimes messes up your shot, and there's a lot of pressure inside of you to relieve the adrenaline rush, and so that instigates for making a bad shot, because you're trying to get rid of the rush. Yeah.
We'll go ahead and let, you know, Lance or Weston take over, and you guys, if you'll share your most challenging or memorable hunt.
As far as clients go, challenging hunts with clients, the most challenging hunts in general that I have are with the clients that can't seem to shoot straight.
I can't wait to hear this story.
There's
countless
so
stories.
many stories.
Too many stories.
It's too many stories to count, and that's why it's so hard to pick just one. But I could go with a outlier, a little bit of an extreme from a couple seasons ago on a mule deer hunt. Had a client that shot a lot. We'll say that. Ended up shooting 17 times at 6 different bucks. And the smallest buck he shot at was a big 3-year-old 2-point that he ended up killing. Forkosaurus. And 3 of those bucks were over 160.
Now, do you chalk this up to him as the shooter, the rifle, buck fever, or, you know, just a mix of everything? Or could you pretty clearly state this guy needed to practice a little more?
He was flinching on every shot. and his shots, out of 17 shots, we had just about every scenario to shoot from, and every range as well.
Had a lot of data.
The buck he finally ended up getting was 130 yards shooting off the top of the tripod, and he pulled the trigger with the safety on and yanked it. And I poked him on the shoulder. You yanked the trigger again. Don't do that. Takes safety off, shoots, and still barely got it. Hit it in the spine. But it didn't go anywhere after that.
So my question there is, was he new, or was it like a new rifle to him?
No.
So
he's an older guy. He's hunted with us a lot of times, and he always seems to get his animal. But that was the worst he's ever shot. He did a hunt with us last season and redeemed himself greatly. Made 2 great shots on a bull elk. So it was just practice and buck fever and just afraid of his gun. But he was shooting a 300 Win Mag on both hunts, so he just got over it through a lot of forced dry fire practice.
We worked with him a lot. I worked with him a lot. That hunt, just those deer had his number that hunt,
And that happens,
One thing we do a lot of, we spend a ton of time doing, is working on shooting with our clients, from messaging them beforehand and giving them ideas of what to do, big old long list of stuff, to working with them in person. Sometimes we invite our clients to come visit us in the summertime so that we can work with them personally on their shooting and what to expect and things. All of this helps us all be successful. This hunt is all of our memories, and we all want to be successful. And so we spend so much time working on shooting it with rifle and archery. But yeah, it's very challenging. And buck fever, we spend a lot of time teaching people how to deal with buck fever. And a big part of that is just experience. And so we're trying to get these hunters experience. A lot of people, most people, when they're getting ready for a hunt, they go sight in their gun, make sure it's on, and that's it. And they get out in the field and they're not familiar with their gun. They can't load around, put the safety on, take the safety off without thinking about it. It's not second nature. They have to really think about what they're doing. They shoot once, put another round in, put another round in. Oh yeah, I can do that. I can put another round in. So we spend a lot of time with, like I said, how to shoot, scenarios, buck fever, and that's a big challenge. That's probably our biggest challenge every year is dealing with that. And since we started doing that, and we get better at doing it every year, and every year we get more experience in something, there's always new things that happen. We haven't seen it all, for sure. As far as challenging things, I would agree with Weston. That's the hardest, is working with hunters. And that particular hunter you mentioned, he's a great guy. We love hunting with him.
Yeah.
That hunt just had his number, and we worked with him a bunch. And he came back this next year and killed a nice bull. With his first 2 shots, he just drilled that thing, and it was great. And we were all excited, and everybody accomplished our goal there. It was great. As far as most memorable hunts, like Ty was talking about, you can tell Ty has a great story there, but he's still young. He's still got some experience to experience there. And so I'll set in a good example here. My favorite and most memorable hunts are my hunts with my wife. Period.
She can hear you from the other room, can't she?
I hope so.
When you're talking about the challenging, like the buck fever and the client that, you know, I imagine that shooting is very similar to other sports where maybe he just had the yips.
Yeah, I go through my own yips in archery shooting.
Mhm.
Some years I do great, shoot wonderfully. Other years, every time I go to shoot at an animal and it's buck fever gets the best of me and I forget how to shoot. Usually just forget to keep my bow up and I try to watch where the arrow goes and I move my bow and the arrow goes over there instead of at the deer or whatever.
Yeah, it happens to everybody. And that's in the middle of teaching other people what to do,
Yeah.
helping them be successful.
It's so funny. I, for a few years there, may have developed the nickname Chief Empty Quiver because I shot so many times with my bow, and I still killed a lot of stuff.
Let's be honest. The majority of the time, you emptied your quiver on one animal, though.
Yes, it was on one animal, and getting that animal from being perfectly healthy to no longer with us in the process there. For some reason, I wanted to use all 6 of my arrows every time.
Pack them around. Might as well use them.
Yeah, and and then the next year would go out and kill a deer with 1 shot, and then the next year would, like Weston would say, you just start missing again. And part of that is practice.
A lot of it is.
I'd say most of it is practice. One thing that I've noticed help improve my archery skills has actually been reloading. Because I have so many more rounds downrange trying to be extremely accurate through reloading. It is made a lot more permanent muscle memory on my brain of trigger pull and letting the gun do its thing. For a long time, just up until last year, I didn't ever have a muzzle brake or a suppressor on any of my guns. And I just barely got a suppressor last year. And we don't run muzzle brakes. All they do is blow our ears out in a hunting scenario. And so you're just letting a 300 Win Mag kick the snot out of you for 20, 30 rounds in a reloading load test, and letting that happen and just letting it hammer me over and over, I think built a lot of mental, what do you call it? I would say mental durability of just let the gun do its thing. Weston's hit me harder. This gun can't do any worse. And it's going to continue to do that. And it's consistent. I can count on it to kick me. And I don't need to do anything about that. It's going to continue to do its thing. And so taking that and applying it to my archery hunting, I can kind of categorize that and take that extra half a second, whatever it is, 1 second of when I get my pins on an animal and say, all right, do your thing. And when I shoot, I'm a lot better now, but also I'm a lot more confident of where the arrow's going. Sometimes I shoot, I'm like, yeah, no, that ain't it. And other times I'm like, that was excellent. Something happened between me and the animal, and that's why the arrow didn't go the way it went. And so it, like Weston said, it's 1 year to the next, but there's definitely been certain forms of practice that have helped me develop that and get that muscle memory going to where I can be more confident in my ability and also trust my future self to take that extra time needed to calm myself down and have a good trigger pull, whether it be on a rifle or a bow.
Do you think that part of that is like off-season practice? Because like I feel like a lot of hunters that I've met, whether it's rifle or archery, they practice a little bit right before their hunt, and then they hunt and then they're done until the next season, right? I think you can avoid some of those obstacles if you are disciplined enough to practice throughout the whole year versus just right before your hunt, right?
Yeah. And another thing along that line is I had a quote in high school when I was in sports is practice makes permanent, but perfect practice will help you achieve perfection. And so there's just practice will make permanent. And if you practice bad, you'll be permanently bad, when it comes down to your hunt. But if you are being more meticulous in your practice and strategic with it to where you're teaching yourself how to handle these high pressure scenarios when you got hair behind your pins or your crosshairs, that kind of practice will teach you to be a better shot in a hunting scenario. And so we tell our hunters, like, go shoot small game. Hunting jackrabbits is the best preparation for hunting scenarios as you can get. First off, because it is a hunting scenario, there's pressure. The rabbit could get away, whether you're shooting a bow or a gun. And jackrabbits are small, and they're often in trees. And so you have to find a lane and pick that lane, shoot through the lane. If you're hunting with jackrabbits with your bow, you're hitting the target like this, in order to kill that jackrabbit. And if you're shooting jackrabbits out to 50 yards, you're going to have a fantastic time elk hunting, because the elk chest is 3 times the size of that jackrabbit. And it's great.
What
practice.
we're talking about is gaining experience.
Yes.
And the more experience that you have, the more confidence you're going to have. And the more confidence that you have, the less buck fever that you're going to have in those wrong times.
So
go ahead. Just want to second that from Lance. You see, I grew up hunting with, I was the youngest. I got to see, different tiers of age. And you always turn to the most experienced, which often led to the eldest. And they were usually the cleanup guy. And they always made great shots. And that comes to experience, as you said, that reputation, they're not having the buck fever, but controlling it and knowing exactly what your gun's going to do because you've been shooting that gun for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, and I think confidence in your rifle too, and or whatever you're using to hunt with. I mean, we mentioned I guess this was off camera, but we mentioned my buck fever on a jackrabbit when I was out down visiting you, Ty, but then there was another instance where we were shooting little cottontails as well, and I had my 6mm that I am very, very fond of and very good with, and it was a one and done situation, even though I don't really hunt that often. So it was little cottontail was just as exciting for me as anything else, right? But I had the confidence in my gun that I knew if I aimed and pulled the trigger right that it was going to go, and it all it took was one.
Yeah, and at a further distance than any of those jackrabbits were at.
Yeah, that little bunny was at like 100-ish yards or something, and the jackrabbits were all like 20 yards away.
Yeah.
So smaller target, further away, yet you made a perfect shot.
So I mean, I think all of that is encompassed within itself, right? Practice, confidence, experience, all of it.
Yep,
absolutely.
All right, so we're gonna start getting into some nitty gritty stuff here.
I want to clarify one thing before we ask this next question.
Okay, go ahead.
I've heard you guys talk about, hunting with rifles, hunting with bows. When you're guiding, tell us which type of weapon do you do? Do you do all of them? Do you exclude some of them? So take a minute and maybe tell us which weapons you hunt with and which ones you guys prefer.
We hunt with everything. I think the only thing we haven't hunted with that's now illegal is an atlatl in Arizona.
Yeah, they recently legalized hunting javelina and turkeys with an atlatl. We haven't tried that one yet. But we will. That's in the works.
Atlatls are not easy.
No.
Yeah, no, they're not. Yeah.
I only know of that because of the old TV show Top Shot.
Yeah.
They use those atlatls.
Yeah.
You know,
But archery turkey to rifle, deer or elk, and everything,
Muzzleloaders.
muzzleloaders, shotguns for turkeys, dove, quail, predators with either shotguns or small rifles. You know, your ARs, your bolt actions, your we've had clients shoot M1 Garands, you know, stuff like that. We've seen a lot of different weapons come through.
Crossbows,
air bows, and each one has its perks, and
each
and
one has its downfalls.
each one has downfalls too. And so every time we have started to learn a new weapon, you know, when crossbows started getting popular, or now air bows, you know, stuff like that starts coming out, we start getting clients that are bringing them. We're legal. We get to learn that new weapon and all of its quirks, and it's a steep learning curve sometimes. Especially when we first started hunting with crossbows, they can be really finicky, and you have to replace the string every couple hundred shots. And then when you get a new string, it stretches, and so you got to resight it in, you know. And so we got a new string, put it on the crossbow, went hunting the next week, it's shooting all over the place. You got to resight it in, and then a week later, it's shooting off again. You got to resight it in and get your 50 shots in to get that string stretched out. You know, there's little things like that with every weapon. And so we've had the opportunity to see a lot of those weapons and the malfunctions of them, how to overcome them, whether that be through specific types of weapons of, hey, bring a single shot or a bolt action or a pump action, whatever it may be, or types of ammo in each of those weapons as well.
so another thing that using different weapons allows you to hunt more seasons.
Yeah.
And it opens up a lot more opportunities for you to be out in the woods doing different things. And then also, when you have done one thing a bunch of times, you start thinking of new ways to do it, you know, and it just opens up all kinds of things. You know, maybe that's in a new area, maybe that's with a new kind of weapon. You know, Ty and Weston have both shot elk with a 357 revolver, just because it's not the best tool for the job, but it was something new. It was a new challenge in a new area and just something different.
We had
it opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. As limiting as that is to hunt elk with a revolver, we did have a spot to make it happen, and I shot a bull and Weston shot a cow with his revolver, and a lot of fun. A new challenge, you know.
It was cool.
It was a really cool experience. I'll totally do it again.
Awesome. Well, that's good. So any hunt with any weapon that qualifies inside of that hunt, you guys are prepared for and ready to get out in the field with.
And you also mentioned, what would we prefer? As far as what we prefer our clients to have, I mean, I wish every guy could bring a bazooka, you know, and so it's just like, oh, you hit close, you got it, you know. But we recommend our hunters bring rifles for the rifle hunts, for example. We recommend that they bring rifles that have adequate firepower for the game they're hunting, you know. And there's a lot of bash on the 6.5 Creedmoor and stuff like that. It's not our favorite.
Whoa, hold Ty. Hold on, Ty.
Well,
whoa, we will get there.
We'll get
all
there.
right.
But we like our bigger cartridges for hunting elk with. Part of that is because of distance and hunting scenarios. There's a lot of environmental factors that are fighting against you, and you need to make up for it somewhere, you know. And that's where you can make up in your energy, in your rifle that you have, and the bullet that you choose.
You know, even with coos deer, people ask, you know, well, what do you hunt with? I hunt coos deer with a 7 rum, right? And they're like, well, isn't that too big for a coos deer? It's like, it's not the deer that I'm competing against. It's the environment that he's in that I'm competing against. And so that's why, you know, it's not just, oh, we want a big round. It's that big round gives you a lot of forgiveness in that environment.
That's
I think you just like getting the snot kicked out of you by a 7 rum.
It's not a
You
very
don't-
heavy rifle.
You don't notice it when you're hunting.
yep. You notice it when you target shoot, but when it comes down to it, he could probably throw, you know, multiple rounds down range and be like, "Did I shoot an airsoft gun? Like, what was this?"
Right? Yeah. I've been hunting with his 7 rum since I was 13. Been killing stuff. I killed my first mule deer with it. I
Lots
killed
of
my
people.
first bull elk with it. Yeah. And a lot of our clients have killed stuff with that gun. It has
From
been
little kids to little old ladies.
Yep.
We have a thing that we do in this. We say, don't let your kids practice with the big rounds because they don't need to feel that kick. They need to dry fire and get to know that gun like we were talking about earlier. Know the feel of the trigger, the safety, the bolt. But don't let kids shoot those big rounds. When you go, you can give them a 22. Let them play with the 22. They don't need to feel the big gun because it builds bad habits. If you can teach those kids perfect habits like Tiger was talking about earlier, you know, perfect practice makes, you know, perfection. And with my kids growing up, it was a perfect example. These 2 boys here, they shot that 7 rum since they were just little kids. And when you're hunting, you don't feel that kick, you know. And I never let them shoot around. I don't think Ty shot a round through that gun at practice until you were what, 17 or something?
Yeah, I was probably 17 or so when I first shot that, not at a live animal.
I didn't shoot it till last year, 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he's killed a lot of stuff with that gun.
Yeah.
You know, because he didn't have any fear of that gun. And a lot of people, and this goes into a lot of other stuff that we're going to cover, I'm sure, but a lot of people are like, what kind of gun should I get my little kid? You know? And I'm always like, don't get him that little gun. Maybe if he's really tiny and he's 10 years old and you're afraid his shoulder's going to get dislocated, but most kids, once they're 11, 12, they can shoot the 300. They can shoot the 7 mag. It's not a big deal. But what people are doing, in my opinion, our opinion, is they're taking their little kid and they're giving them a little gun because they're afraid of the recoil, and they're limiting that kid. They're taking that kid and they're tying his arms behind his back and saying, okay, here, come and do what the adults are doing with your little gun. Give that kid the same gun. Don't let him practice with live rounds. Just let him dry fire, and he will go out there and outshoot every adult.
Yeah.
Kids, I love to guide kids and women because they don't have any bad habits and they don't have any pride to get in the way. They just, you tell them what to do and they're like, okay, do it. A kid doesn't know a hard shot or a long shot unless you tell him that's what it is. He doesn't know that's a big gun and it would, if you were practicing off the bench, it's going to hurt your shoulder unless you tell him and then show him. If all he knows is that little click from the perfect practice trigger pull on dry firing, he's going to go out there and shoot whatever animal you tell him to at whatever range. He doesn't know any different. Just tell him, just do it. Okay. And they'll do it.
Yep.
It's adults who tell kids and hold them back. Say, oh, that's a long shot. You know, one, I'll tell a quick story and as an example of that, and you can cut it out later if you want, but
Nah, we love story time. At least I do. Let's hear it.
we had a client, it was a young boy, he's like 14 or something, and he was hunting with my guy John, and this was a long time ago before dial-up scopes were popular, and they saw these bull elk up on the mountain, and John said, having experience with cartridges and rifles in general, he said, aim this high over its back and shoot. Okay, the kid shoots, hits low. Okay, I've seen where you hit. Aim this high over his back and shoot. Again, he shoots, he drills that bull, it dies in 20 yards. And I'm like, all right, high fives. And the dad's sitting there and he's looking up the mountain and he's like, well, how far is that? And John tells him that's 773 yards. And the dad's like, whoa, that's crazy. What in the world? Well, flip those two and put the dad behind the gun. There's the bulls. Shoot them. Well, how far is that? Just aim right here and shoot them. Well, how far is that? Just aim this high and shoot. But that looks like a long ways. How far is it? It's 773 yards. Oh, that's too far. That's a long shot. That's hard. I don't think I can do that. The kid already had it dead a long time ago because nobody told him it was a hard shot to do. They just said do it. So I guess it goes back to don't limit your kids with these small guns. They can shoot the big guns unless you make them afraid of them.
Very well said.
Yeah.
I really like that. I don't want to say metaphor, but
And I
just
think that's,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I think that's half of it, at least half of hunting is the mental game. And getting over the mental game and having the discipline and control over your emotions, but also your thoughts and your physical self, of controlling yourself, keeping yourself disciplined to where you can handle those sort of things, but also not letting your thoughts impede you from doing great things. And just like he was saying, kids don't know better. They just do exactly what you say. And they're like, oh yeah, it worked. Duh. Whereas some people that may have some pride in there, they're like, oh, no way, I can't do that. Grandpa said I can't do it. I can't do it,
Well, these are things that like I would have never thought about that myself. Now, granted, I don't hunt like all you guys do. I'm a big target shooter, right? And my first gun for my little kid was a 22 Cricket, and she loves it, but I haven't put her behind a bigger gun and told her, now this is going to kick you a lot. And now that I've heard this, I won't do that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And that's another thing is we had pellet guns when we were little kids. I think 8 years old is when we got pellet guns. And then when we were
given free rein.
Like we were taught how to be safe with it, what to do, what to not do with it. We got a good thorough training on that and got to take him out rabbit hunting with dad and stuff. But we also lived on the edge of Forest Service. We had a few square miles of backyard of rabbit country to go hunt. And so we would just disappear for the day, half a day as 10-year-olds. And we'd go shoot some rabbits and we'd bring them home and cook them up, and so we were really familiar with our guns, how to use it, what the trajectories were. When I started having to aim high over a rabbit to hit it, with my pellet gun. And then that transitioned into 22s when we got a little older. And because of where we lived, we couldn't hunt with the 22s behind the house there. But we would go out frequently to go hunt rabbits and stuff with our dad and our cousins and stuff. And we got very familiar with these bolt action 22s or 17 HMR and these lightweight rifles and small targets. And it started getting to the point where it was pretty hard for rabbits to get away.
At one point, myself and our cousin, we were bored with shooting rabbits with 22s and shotguns, so we went out with muzzleloaders and muzzleloading pistol and still killed some rabbits. It was a lot of fun, and we sure missed a lot, but it was a challenge. It was something new.
We would load up in the truck a bunch of, oh man, 8 to 15-year-old kids, all of us cousins would load up in the truck and we'd go drive around the woods and we'd see a jackrabbit and we'd bail out and we'd all have bows, bunch of recurves and maybe a couple compounds in the mix. And we would all just like a bunch of hounds after a fox on the king's hunt, and just take off running, flinging arrows at this thing. And the poor things couldn't get away. It was awesome. And a lot of them did get away, but you get 4 kids that knew how to shoot going after a jackrabbit or a cottontail. If it stopped at all, it was getting arrows flung at it. And when you got another backup, it was pretty quick to recover them.
They didn't realize the training I was giving them at the time.
Yeah.
It all goes back to that
training.
Experience breeds the confidence, and the confidence is lethal.
No, that's awesome. So
I think it's time to get into the nitty gritty.
yeah, we're gonna start talking now about some of your experiences. Part of the reason we brought you onto the podcast was to get those 31 years of experience between you guys and share it with our listeners and those who are watching. Do you want to ask this question, or would you like me to?
You can.
All right.
Go ahead.
So this is a fun one, all right? The question is, when it comes to resilience, what is the most resilient animal you hunt, and why is it an elk?
I would
Honestly,
say
it's
jackrabbits would be pretty good pound for pound in the running with that. There's tough jackrabbits
Yeah.
there.
Jackrabbits and javelina.
And javelina.
But elk.
They're huge. Yeah.
It makes me think of exactly what you said. They're huge. You take a deer and you shoot him with one thing, and you take that same thing and you shoot the elk with it. Let's go back to broadhead for an example. Say you shoot an elk with a deer with an 1.5 inch wide broadhead. Okay. Now to take that 1.5 inch wide broadhead and shoot an elk that is 4 times bigger, that's like shooting that deer with a sharp field tip. Okay. And so you're taking these guns that kill deer well, and you're shooting an elk with it that's 4 times bigger, but you're not using 4 times bigger of a gun. And so technically you're just putting little holes in this big old bull elk or cow elk. And that's why they can really take a hit, because size wise, you're just poking little holes in them compared to what you're doing to a deer.
Yeah. Also, elk take broken legs really well sometimes. More so a front leg, I feel like, than a back leg.
Yeah.
You take out a front leg, they can still get away from you. You take out a back leg, and if you can keep on them, you'll catch up. But they don't know they're supposed to die. In their mind, they're supposed to just keep going no matter what happens. And so trying to overcome that mentality, a person gets injured and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm missing fingers, right? And they're totally shut down from doing anything until they get that fixed, or they die of shock. It wasn't even blood loss or anything. They just froze, and give themselves a heart attack, whatever. And elk is just like, I can do without that. And they just keep going and they figure it out, especially if given the time and the pressure to figure it out, which is why a lot of people will, if they wound an animal, they let it sit. And sometimes the wound will overcome them and they just die. That's the big thought back east is you don't want to go push that deer that's wounded, because then it'll run onto the neighbor's property. Where we hunt, we have a little bit different mentality, because we can hunt all of the property around the wounded animal. And so we're just like, let's just go get it. Let's go put another round in them, and
It's also open enough in most places too, where if we do jump them, we can get another round in them before we get out of sight again.
But elk have an ability to just absorb it and keep going.
Well, you told me a story one time about an elk that you had killed, and you opened it up to, look at your own wound channel that you made, or maybe it was with a client. I can't remember exactly, but you found a healed over wound channel inside this elk that in your mind should have killed it, but it just lived through it.
Yeah. So my latest archery bull, he was an old mature bull. He was over 6 years old. He was probably closer to the 8 or 9 year mark. He had several different wounds. He had a healed over broadhead lodged in the spine, and where the arrow shaft was a little tube that had grown out and come up to the surface of the skin and was actively leaking. He had a little bald spot there and some pus coming out of it. And that was just a pressure relief tube from the broadhead that was still lodged in the bone in his spine. But the broadhead was all calcified over, healed up, not bothering him. And then he also had some scar tissue in his gut that made me think he had been shot by a rifle at one point. Mm-hmm. No, not sure what size of rifle or anything. It was really old, but there was a patch of scar tissue in the lower gut there. And then the most impressive one was another arrow wound. A 3-blade broadhead had entered in the chest and angled forward and touched the heart. There was a broken rib that had healed over, and then you could see from that rib, and then the lung had a 3-blade scar in it, and it poked that lung, the right lung, and poked the top of the heart. I didn't realize it until I was cutting up the heart to eat, but there was healed over bone fragment in the heart and a big old chunk of scarring in the top of the heart tissue. Which means that bull took a broadhead to the heart and lived, and it was all healed over, totally fine. The only thing that was doing anything was that pus tube coming out of the broadhead hole from the year before.
Yeah,
so what you're telling me is the shots that I missed, I really didn't miss. They were excellent shots. The animal was just stronger than my round. That's what I take from this. I'm a great shot.
It sometimes is. Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it many times where you make a great shot, either double lung, single lung, chest shot, and they're like, nah, that wasn't good enough. I'm walking away. They just walk, and they just live.
From a lot of people,
yeah.
A lot of people won't ever believe that or hear it for the first time right here, that animals can take a double lung shot and live. They can take a gut shot and live. We've seen it many times, and many times doesn't mean 5 times. Many times. Can't even count how many times we've seen it.
Yeah, every year.
We've killed animals that have had double lung arrows in them, arrows through the gut, bullets through the lungs, bullet through the gut. We've seen it. Our clients have done it. I've done it. We've witnessed these animals living. We know where the bullet went or the arrow went, and they live through it. They just like Ty said earlier, they don't know they're supposed to die. I've talked with a lot of doctors about it, and most of them are just like, oh yeah, it just depends on what it hits. It sounds crazy, but it does happen more often than a lot of people think.
So Lance, I wanted to follow up to what you said when we started this about the elk resilience. You had mentioned the size of the animal compared to the size of the bullet, right? Saying it's like shooting a broadhead to just your target, your normal target shooting.
Field tip.
There we go. Thank you. The question that I have is, yes, the caliber difference doesn't change per se, from, let's say you're using your 7 mag on a deer compared to an elk. Does foot pounds matter? That's a big topic that I've seen come across forums and talking with other hunters. does the foot pounds matter when it's hitting a deer versus an elk? Does 1,500 foot pounds make that much of a difference on a deer versus an elk, right? I think that's the question that I have following up to your comment on the size of the caliber.
I can tell Ty is dying to answer that for you, so I'm gonna let him do it.
We're getting into numbers now. So here's where my experience is coming in. So when it comes down to it, not a whole lot, not nearly as much as what most people give credit to. What matters more than foot pounds of energy is what your bullet does.
How it expands.
Because I can take a 7 Ultra Mag with a full metal jacket and shoot a coyote with it, and that coyote's going to live. But I can also take that same 7 Ultra Mag and put our favorite bullet in it at the moment is a 180 grain ELDM, and I can shoot a deer at 1,200 yards with it. And it makes a permanent wound channel, 2-inch permanent wound channel through the thing.
We'll cut that
And
coyote
there's
in
breaking
half.
bones and stuff, or it would just cut the coyote in half, you know? And so,
Ty,
yeah.
you're breaking the internet right now. All
What-
right?
What
You're
bullet-
breaking the internet.
I know. What the
You
bullet
can't use
does.
the match grade ammo on an animal. You just can't do that.
Yeah. But like,
But it works so well.
what the bullet does is so much more important than the energy behind it. Like, for example, we were talking earlier, we've killed elk with 357 revolvers. That's like 350 foot pounds of energy that those elk were getting hit with.
There's nothing.
Yet they were dying just fine from the bullets we were hitting them with.
They're dying just as fast from a 357 revolver as they do from a 6.5 Creedmoor.
If not a little faster.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for the clarity. I just wanted to kind of bring that up as it was mentioned in there. So shot placement, the bullet type kind of way more into it than actual foot pounds. Because, I mean, you think about it, an arrow doesn't pack a lot of foot pounds either.
Yeah, tops, you got like 35, 40 foot pounds with your arrow on.
I just, in our line of work, talking to a variety of people from just target shooters to just avid hunters, we kind of hear it all, and it all comes back to that foot pounds. And it's nice to hear a different take that has real life experience. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, and you can go Google it. Yeah, you can go Google it, and it'll say most people recommend 1,000 foot pounds for elk, but
1,500.
or 1,500 for
1,000
elk
for
and
deer.
1,000 for deer. And but that foot pounds doesn't mean anything if your bullet went straight through, and 1,000 of those 1,500 foot pounds is in the dirt behind the elk.
Perfect.
That's what it comes down to.
That's what he was looking for. That answer right there.
And it's kind of,
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of odd these days how many bullet manufacturers are bragging about the pass through, 2 holes, the pass through penetration of their bullet. And
High weight retention.
I think maybe it's because a lot of them are making these copper bullets and stuff, and that's just what's going to happen because they don't expand very much. And so they're trying to talk it up like, oh, that's a good thing. But really, you're wasting all that energy outside the animal, and you're not getting that expansion of your bullet. So like you were saying, it doesn't matter how hard it's hitting. If your bullet doesn't open and do the damage, it doesn't matter.
Well, we're going to get into that a little deeper in a few questions from here. Jeromy had to bring up the topic just because, it was relevant, but we definitely want to get deeper into that and maybe upset some people that think they know that don't have the experience that you guys have. What I'd like to know now is, from your 31 years of experience, what would you say are the 3 most popular rifle hunt animals that you hunt?
Elk, mule deer, and coos deer.
I know that you guys also you hunt the mountain goats and big sheep, bighorn sheep and stuff, right?
Bighorn sheep,
Yeah,
desert
so-
bighorns here in Arizona.
It's just so much harder to get a bighorn sheep tag or an antelope tag in Arizona. So I think if there was a lot more tags, it would be a lot more popular for us to hunt those species. But the way the populations are and the management for those requires a severe lower amount of tags to be issued, and so it's a lot harder to get those tags. Therefore, we don't get to see as many of those clients that have those tags, just in proportions.
So it's mostly just the deer then.
Yeah, deer and elk.
Yeah, you might get to guide one sheep hunt in a year, but you can guide 30 or 40 elk hunts or deer hunts because those tags are so much more plentiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yep.
So coos deer, mule deer, elk. Let's go in order from coos deer, mule deer up to elk. Based on your experience, for these particular animals, what would you say is the smallest caliber you would allow somebody to bring on a guided hunt for each one?
I'm gonna let you take that one.
Loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah. Allow is a strong word.
Allow.
Allow.
This is where controversial stuff comes.
Sometimes we allow more than
we want.
sometimes we allow more than we would like because maybe that's the only gun the hunter has, or it's something sentimental or something. But we do our best to make sure he has the right bullet in that gun, because you can take a smaller gun and put the right bullet in it.
Maybe the better question is, what's the smallest caliber you would suggest to bring on a hunt on these animals versus allow? Because I guess people will probably bring whatever they have or want, right?
Yeah. I would say as far as caliber, actual bullet diameter, I want all of the deer and elk getting killed with something that's at least a 6.5 millimeter. As far as
a 7.
Prefer a 7 or a 30 cal, but bare minimum 6.5 millimeter bullet. And now what cartridge that is in and what speed it's coming out of and what actual brand of bullet that is going to differ a little bit. We definitely have some favorite bullets, and we have a list of least favorite bullets as well, just based on terminal performance. And that kind of applies to all of the calibers, not just any specific cartridge. And so we've killed a lot of animals with a lot of different things, and so it's going to be what's the best tool for the job, not what will get you by. That's the mentality to have.
So for all of our animals that we hunt, we have the mentality of go big or stay home. So we shoot coos deer with the same thing we shoot elk with, and that's what we want our clients to bring is big. Like my dad was talking earlier, especially on a coos deer, you're not just fighting the little deer with that bullet, you're fighting the cross canyon winds and the distance of those shots. Because a lot of our coos deer are between 400 to 600 yards, with some being out to 1,000.
Okay. Well, you did say 6'5". Does that mean that Jeremy's 6'5" Creedmoor still in the game?
Just barely.
with the right bullet in it.
Right bullet.
But then again,
other videos,
we're going to tell you before you bring that, especially like on a coos deer hunt, we're going to say, yeah, that obviously with the right bullet, you can kill that coos deer, but you're limiting yourself. And like Weston was just saying, reminding us of is the nature that we're dealing with out there. Yes, the 6.5 Creedmoor can do it, but it's much slower round. It's going to spend a lot more time in the air. It's going to drift more in the wind. It's not going to give you as much lenience on your arching that in there. You're going to have to be very, very accurate with it. And there's always breezes or heat waves somewhere in those mountains. It's changing all the time. And we can deal with it when you have a spotter and you can watch it and call those shots, but winds are constantly changing, and so it's best to have. We're going to tell you, yeah, you can bring that gun, but we'd rather have something that's going to give you a lot more forgiveness. Because along with all that, there's buck fever too. You yank that trigger a little bit, and if that 6.5 Creedmoor doesn't go right in the chest and it hits that coos deer in the butt, is it going to kill it?
Is it going to stay there, or is it going to get away?
My bullet out of my 7 Ultra Mag, it hit him in the back foot, and it's going to quarter him up hanging in the tree for us. It's not going to matter. Oh, I hit him in the butt. That's all right. He's dead. He didn't go anywhere. No tracking job. He is dead. And you come right down to it. That's the most ethical thing, right? You're not there to wound that animal to death. You're not there to see how little you can do to kill him. You want to kill that animal, and you want to kill him as fast as you can. And some people will argue, oh, I don't want to waste meat. We've seen so many thousands of wound channels. You put a big bullet through there, and you're talking at the most a package or two of meat that you've lost with that big bullet. You know what loses meat is when you lose that animal because it got away wounded from some small caliber or some cheap round you tried to use. So that's what we would tell you.
And if you do a well-placed shot, whether it's a 6.5 Creedmoor or your 7 Ultra Mag, a well-placed shot won't damage any meat regardless, correct?
Yeah, you ruin a little bit of ribs.
Yeah, looking through a little bit of ribs is all. Yeah. And everybody, you hear that argument a lot too. Well, you just have to shoot accurately. Oh, you make a well-placed shot and you don't need that big gun. But those are people that don't, at the risk of stepping on some toes, they don't have the experience. If you get out there and you're hunting, that buck fever takes over. The winds take over. There's a million things that can go wrong in the woods. And you should know enough to know that that's going to happen. And to have a gun that's going to give you forgiveness for that stuff out of respect of the animal.
That's a great way to look at it.
That's what we would tell you if you were a client.
Okay. Now I love hearing that. The next question we have.
This one Ty is going to love.
Yep.
More loaded questions.
Yeah. This is what we've been waiting for. All right. Are there specific bullet types that you want people to use and why? I mean, you have mentioned that you have a list of bullets you like and you don't like, and now we want you to expand on that.
So for all of our rifles, basically hands down across the board, we are in love with the ELDM, the match bullet. Now that's the controversy that can break the internet. It's catching on. A lot of people that actually go out and shoot stuff with it are realizing what it is. And a lot of people say, well, what's wrong with the ELDX? Well, let me tell you. It performs exactly as it's designed. The ELDX performs exactly as it's designed.
Kudos to them.
Yeah, they did
doing that.
They did a fantastic job at getting a bullet to perform consistently as they want it to do. I just don't like the design.
Just don't like how it performs.
In ballistics gel, it looks really good. And you can look up a lot of different YouTube videos comparing ELDM versus ELDX. And typically what happens is the ballistics gel for the ELDX actually looks really good. You get a nice wide wound channel. And then you'll notice on the tail end of the wound channel, like the last third, there, if not more, is just full metal jacket hole.
Little pencil hole.
So they're like, oh, look, this 300 Win Mag with an ELDX penetrated 22 inches into the gel, but the last 10 of it, maybe, yeah, 8 or 10 inches at least, is just full metal jacket hole. So we only have 10 inches of wound channel versus the block next to it of the ELDM Typically in gel, the ELDM holds off on expansion for 1 to 2 inches, and then it will expand in a big, beautiful wound channel. And then the full metal jacket hole on the other side of the wound channel is usually much shorter, usually a little less penetration. So like if the ELDX of similar weight penetrated 22 inches, it'll penetrate 19. But the wound channel is more consistent and a little longer throughout the portion. Now translate that to an animal where we have hide and bone and organs, and not to mention shot angles, right? Because actually very rarely is an animal perfectly broadside to you. They always got a little bit of angle to you, from you, sometimes a lot, just depends on what you're shooting, what you're comfortable shooting with, and how well you know the anatomy of an animal. I want to be able to kill an animal broadside. That's great, right? We all want that. We all want the elk to stand there at 100 yards, perfectly broadside, so we can shoot it straight through the chest. That doesn't always happen. Or even after that happens, they just move over and stop, and they're quartered hard away. And you're like, oh, I just got a gun blow up my face. I didn't see the animal when the gun went off because my scope moves, right? Because the gun went off. I'm not exactly sure where I hit. I need to make a follow-up shot, right? It's still standing. We're still shooting. And so I also need a round that I can hit that elk in the hind quartered away, and it's going to make it to the chest on the other side. And so I still want that 20 inches of penetration, but I need good expansion on the other side of that wound channel where that bullet's ending up. And the ELDMs perform that. They typically don't have that 1 to 2 inches that they show in the ballistics gel of full metal jacket penetration on the entrance. Usually once it's through the hide, that bullet is coming apart. And then it will have, depending on the caliber, let's go with a 7mm, right? The 180 grain ELDM out of a 7 PRC, right? We're around that 2,900 feet per second out of the barrel. It will leave in an 1.5 to 2.5 inch permanent wound channel all the way to the bullet. Permanent hole, like stick 3 fingers in that hole, right? And I got fat fingers. And not to mention the 4 to 6 inches of bruising around that permanent hole. That's what we like to see. We like to see a large permanent hole with a large amount of bruising around it at the full penetration. What we notice that the ELDX does is the first 4 inches, we get that. We have good hole, we have good bruising, and then after that 4, maybe 5, 6 inch mark, full metal jacket the rest of the way. Your finger can stretch that hole, and there's minimal bruising around it.
So on an elk, it goes into the ribs, makes a beautiful hole on the onside of the ribs. We'll shred the onside lung. By the time it gets to the other lung, it's just a pencil hole. And so they usually will live a lot longer than they should from a perfect double lung shot, because one lung is still working mostly, or it just won't deflate at all. I've cut up plenty of elk after being shot with the ELDX where that lung just isn't deflated. When I cut into it and poke through the ribs, it sucks a bunch of air in and deflates that lung. So they died from basically a single lung shot, even though we found the bullet on the hide on the other side.
Now, of course, you're going to get tons of people saying, "Oh, I used that bullet, and it performed just fine with me. I killed an elk with it, and it was great," or "I killed a deer with it, and it was great." And that's fine. It's a very popular round, and so we've seen it a ton over many years. And so we've seen hundreds of holes in hundreds of animals. And typically these animals that we're inspecting with that bullet, unfortunately, there's multiple holes that we had to put in that animal. So we get to inspect multiple holes throughout that animal in different places. So we do really have a ton of experience. a lot of it is unfortunate experience, you know. I mean, it only comes one way, right? And it's just it gets the job done. Obviously, because we've had the opportunity to check these wound channels out, that means the animal is dead. But it is just not the best round for the job. It doesn't do what we want it to do. And like I said, it can get the job done. Usually it takes multiple shots. But it's just not the best round. The ELDM is a killing machine. And it gets it done right now.
And the main difference is in the construction of the bullet. You can go watch like the Hornady podcast where they talk about the design and everything that went into the ELD series. I actually watched it recently, and it's really cool. A lot of good information there. But the ELDX has a thicker copper jacket. They're both cup and core bullets. Thicker copper jacket on the ELDX and an interlock ring. The interlock ring is a breakaway point. So what it does is it allows for good expansion, but once it hits that interlock ring, stuff will break off, and then the rest of that bullet, the other 2/3 of the bullet, will continue to penetrate, which when you look at the wound channels in animals, you see exactly that. You're like, oh, look, close range, ELDX, boom, it grenaded, and then a full metal jacket kept going. And minimal stuff continued to shed. Whereas the ELDM has a thinner jacket, doesn't have the interlock ring, and it will go in and start to expand and then continue to expand throughout the entire wound channel. And we actually have a couple of bullets here, a couple of different calibers of ELDMs. This is out of a 300 Win Mag. This is some reloads with a 225 grain ELDM at, this one's at 120 yards. So this is, this is as expanded as this bullet will ever get, right? 100 yards on the ELDM. Let me try it. The cup and core are actually coming apart. So I'll show you those individually. That's the core. And they were still touching each other when we pulled it out. Yep. It's not a bonded bullet, so they do come apart. But we got, let me pull my calipers out. A 225 grain bullet that started out as a 30 cal. And where did this bullet hit? You were there.
Oh, it was a complete gut shot also. In and out. It was low and went just behind the diaphragm, full stomach is what it hit. And it was in the hide on the other side.
0.83 inches is the edge-to-edge widest point on that bullet.
So it expanded
more than twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more than 2 times expansion. And those pedals are sharp, you know, especially traveling at 2,000 feet per second. And the bullet weighs 78 grains. So it shed over 100 grains of material on there. And that, like I said, that's a 100-yard shot. That's as most as that bullet will ever expand. Which it hit the gut and it made it to the other side.
Yep.
Made it clear to the other side of an elk.
And that elk didn't go anywhere.
And how wide on average would you say an elk is? Are they about 28 inches?
Completely broadside, I'd say closer to 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you
when standing
completely broadside, they're about 18. When you start getting angles, that obviously gets further really quick.
And this one was broadside.
Here's another one that was broadside, similar range, 120 yards. The ELDM, this is out of the 30 cal, the 225 grain, and it was just the jacket. Where did you hit that one?
So this is out of the same gun, 2 different elk. That's out of my bull from last year. Shot him in the front shoulder as he was running through the trees, and the bullet went through the onside shoulder And as soon as it hit it was through the shoulder blade. And as soon as it hit that shoulder blade, there was a fist-sized hole through the entire chest cavity. And I found that jacket on the opposite side shoulder blade with no lead left in it. And he obviously dropped immediately and never got back up. Yeah. But I literally put my fist in the hole after I took the leg off as I was cutting him up, and I was just in awe of how big that hole was in his chest. And I put my fist through it and touched the other ribs on the other side. It was insane.
So, that's not something you hear every day.
No. So for all the listeners that may have watched our video where we were figuring out what hand loads to use in Jeremy's 6.5 Creedmoor Tika, that's why we chose the ELDM.
Yes.
So he could hunt with it and be successful.
Here's a different example. This is, you shot
That's
this
out of my 6mm arc. It's coming out of the barrel at 2750, and I shot a goat over in Texas with it at 450 yards.
So it's 108 grain ELDM out of a 6 arc.
Yeah, that thing mushroomed nice.
Yeah, it did.
And
very nice.
It's at 91 grains, so it held a lot of its weight, but it mushroomed beautifully.
So over twice as
what did the wound channel on that look like?
The goat was quartered hard away when I shot. It was actually running over the ridge, and it went in right in the front of the back leg, and the bullet stopped on the hide just in front of the opposite shoulder. So it traveled through the entire goat.
How many inches would you say that is of penetration?
Ooh.
Those goats aren't huge.
But it's at least 2 feet.
Yeah, you're over 20 inches.
Probably more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably 28-inch wound channel. Yeah. And that goat made it another 10 yards and laid down and never moved again.
So is the ELDM, are there any other bullet types besides the ELDM that you guys like, or is that like just get that one, that's the one that works?
That's our favorite, mostly because of accuracy. It's a match bullet. It's very accurate. And then performance and the high BC, which allows you to maintain your energy at longer range. That's why it's by far our favorite. Our other favorites, if you want.
So if you can get your round with an ELDM in it, we say get that. There's a lot of the classic guns like a 7 mag and a 300 Win mag. They don't make a factory round for it, so we will.
The one that's easy to find.
So for the guns that don't have an ELDM option and factory rounds, we will shoot Remington core locks. We've been using those for so many years, and they are tried and true, tested by millions of people, millions of animals.
It says on the bottom.
Have you noticed the difference in those core locks since they went from a soft tip to the
polymer tip?
The
tipped core locks?
Yeah.
Performance, I don't think has changed, but it does keep its velocity out further, so you can shoot an elk at further ranges and have the same performance that you used to have at closer ranges.
Yeah. Whereas before with like the lead nose bullets, that's what I shot out of my 300 Win mag for a long time. Was 180 grain, the lead nose core locks before they came out the tipped ones. And I noticed on the elk that we were killing at closer to that 700 yard mark, past the 650 yard mark, the bullet just was not coming apart as much as I would have liked. Now that they got the tipped ones, that limit has been pushed a little further. That terminal velocity of what you want, your minimum impact velocity is stretched a little bit further downrange. Yep. Because those you typically want, I think for the core locks you typically want like 15 to 1700 feet per second, depending on the caliber of terminal velocity. Versus the ELDM, we can get it down to 1,300 feet per second and still getting good wound channels out of it.
So after 31 years, Lance, this would probably be a better question for you on this one. Has your recommendation for caliber in the last 30 years changed? Meaning, like, Ty mentioned 6.5 at a minimum is what you would prefer to see. Has that always been the case, or over your 30 years experience, has that changed? Did it used to be like, in the past, would you have gone smaller, or has it always just been that way?
No, for me, it's always been 7 mag or 30 caliber or better. I don't want to, and I never have wanted to mess with the little ones. You get, like we were talking earlier, you get these tags that take you forever to get. These draw tags or special tags, and then you're out there on public land, and there's other people out there, and these animals are wild, and you might only get one chance at that animal. You want to be the most lethal you can be. You don't want to be saying, you know what, he was standing at 350 yards, and I just have never, I don't know. I just don't know. We hear that all the time, and so I've always been just your basic, Yeah, there's a ton of new rounds out there all the time, but if they perform in that range, that 7 mag, that 300 Win mag, that class of bullet, that class of cartridge, then that's what I've always been about. Well, back in the day, the 270 was very popular. Everybody had 270s. And I often said, don't go anything smaller than 270. But I kind of gotten away from the 270. I just seen so many animals take that skinny little bullet and run, take 4 or 5 of them. And so back in the day, I kind of started shying away from that, and I just like, please don't bring 270. But with further knowledge these days, I don't know which bullets they were shooting. You can put the right bullet in 270, it's going to kill an elk just fine. Back then I really didn't know that. But yeah, I've always stuck with the bigger rounds.
Okay. We've heard your favorite bullet type so far. What's one of your least favorite bullets? And this might be, it's popular for the hunting world, but from your experience, you would rather they threw a rock at
it. Solid copper.
Oh my goodness.
They just poke a hole through. They turn into a pretty little flower. And from my experience, flowers don't kill things very well in the woods. Mushrooms, however, are known very well for being very deadly.
Flowers, no. Mushrooms, yes. All right, got it.
That's good.
They're basically a dull, tiny broadhead, going really fast. Yeah, if you shoot your deer in the heart with it, it's going to do great. That deer's going to die. And I've held when those copper bullets were still pretty new. I had a client shoot a deer 120 yards with it, and he hit it right through the heart. It was kind of quartered to us, and I can't remember the round that it was out of. I think it was a 7 mag. The heart split in half. And I was like, wow, this actually isn't that bad. And then a little while later, my little sister shot a cow elk with the same bullets, and they crisscrossed 2 7mm 140 grain copper bullets through the chest, and another one in the gut. We shot that elk 4 times before we walked up to it, and then had to shoot it in the head because it was still alive. 5-8 minutes later, with crisscrossing bullets through the chest, and they were They were lodged in either the meat or the rib bones on the opposite sides of the chest. And I would just remember cutting that elk open going, holy cow, look, this bullet is right. That shot great. Why was she still alive? Oh, there's another one on this side that we hit her with again. I'm like, holy cow, what the heck? Just trying to wrap my mind around this elk got shot basically, twice through he got 4 holes in the chest from 40, from different angles, and it was still alive several minutes later when we walked the 200 yards up the hill, and it was still trying to get up, and we ended up putting one on the head, to finish it off. And so that's kind of what started us to pay attention to those bullets and keep track, a mental note of it, of what are these doing, and what really started to shy us away from them.
And that's just one small story. Since then, and even a little bit before that, but since then, so many animals that unfortunately have taken the same sort of shots like that, and when you're in the line of work that we're in, you start noticing this, and when you're feeling bad for that animal because of the way it died, like you said, you shoot an animal across the canyon 3 or 4 times, it goes off, lays down, you hike across the canyon 45 minutes, you come up on it, and it's still alive. You remember, that doesn't need to be happening. And when that first bullet could have killed it, that animal didn't need to go through that. So it really makes you pay attention to all these little details. And we've started collecting tons of information on it and recording things and taking pictures of things. We've even made a big album that we add these pictures to and record, and I labeled it The Work of Death, the name of the album. And it's great information. It's just full of information, the stuff that we've collected over the years. So that's what he's talking about there.
Okay. I've got an interesting one for you, and I you guys might have a hard time with this one. So assuming that 6.5, you said, is the smallest caliber you like to see. Let's say so that's going to be our.
Oh, no, hold on. We didn't say we'd like to see it. Said that we'll put up with it.
Tolerate.
That you'd put up with. Okay, sorry. Yeah, we'll make sure that's a clarifying that you will put up with 6.5, and the largest. We'll put a cap on the largest being a 30 cal. Assuming that they're using your favorite bullet, an ELDM, from 6.5 up to 30 cal, how big of a difference does the actual caliber size make when shooting these animals? Does it make as big of a difference as people think? Or as long as you're using the right bullet, it's not as much as people think?
I'm glad you asked this. I've been waiting for this question. I've been thinking about it. It actually makes a big difference, the caliber size. We can show these bullets again, like the 6mm versus the 30 cal, and how different these bullets are. I've seen a deer finishing shot at 20 yards out of a 6.5 PRC with a 147 grain ELDM, and that's as much as it's going to expand with, that's out of a PRC. That's as fast as that bullet is going out of any factory rifle that I know of.
As far as the 6.5s, unless you get a 6.5 378, but nobody has those really.
And that bullet looked a lot like this 6mm bullet. Beautiful mushroom, held together, kept a lot of its weight in the hide on the other side. You take that same 20-yard shot and you shoot it with a 30 cal going at
2800
at the same speed.
Yeah.
And it's going to lose a lot more weight, and it comes apart a lot faster because it's a wider diameter bullet. Those narrower diameter bullets hold together so much more than the bigger bullets do, just because they don't have as much friction on them. And it is just a few millimeters, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's not quite the comparison between a sedan versus a semi. It's more like a sedan, or it's more like a Ford Ranger versus F-350. You know, like there's not a ton of size difference, but there's a lot of weight difference. And I'd much rather hit the Ford Ranger head on than the F-350 any day. You know? And so, yeah, like Wesley was saying, what it is a lot of the equation you could get to that equals the wound channel is going to be weight of your bullet times diameter times velocity is going to equal your wound channel, right? And so if you have a narrow diameter bullet that doesn't weigh very much and isn't going very fast, not going to, no matter how that bullet's designed, not going to create a very long, wide, deep wound channel. But you get a wider bullet that has a lot more weight and is traveling a lot faster, you're obviously going to have a lot wider, longer, deeper wound channel.
So for all you listeners that argue that 6.5 is just as good as 30 cal, it's just not.
But it can be.
So we left on we took a quick break on a very serious question. Would you rather shoot a 6.5, let's say PRC, so we get maximum velocity with an ELDM at an elk, or a 300 Win Mag with an ELDX?
In short, save yourself the headache and just bring the right gun with the right bullet. In long, since you said 6.5 PRC,
yeah, you changed the question.
I'm leading towards that. If you had said Creedmoor and we were down that 200 feet per second for the same bullet, then I'd lean towards the 300 Win Mag with the ELDX.
Was it like, it sounds like it was a tough decision though. Like let's say it is Creedmoor.
Yeah, it's a terrible decision. It's my least favorite question.
That's a really good dumb question.
Yes. Well put, Weston.
And part of that, yeah, but people have these questions, right? And in short, you're focusing on the wrong part, right? That kind of comparison is like, would you rather haul the trailer with a Ford Ranger that has trailer brakes, or would you rather haul it with an F-150 that doesn't have trailer brakes? You know, like they're both going to get the trailer going, but one's going to stop it and one's going to stop it okay, but it better not start fishtailing on you. You know what I mean?
And we ask because we know our listeners do that, right? They've shot this 300 Win Mag for so many years, and they're shooting a Remington core locked, and they just won't change their bullet, you know? And so for them, they would rather go buy a 6.5 PRC than change their 300 Win Mag and what it's set up for.
And I think that might transition us into as well other favorite bullets we have. Like we like the ELDM, we like the core lock. Most of the lead nose bonded bullets are great bullets for hunting out to 500 yards. They might not be tack drivers, you know, they might not be half MOA bullets or anything, or even 1 MOA bullets. But in a hunting scenario, out to 500 yards, all of those lead core or lead bonded bullets with the lead nose tip are going to be just fine for deer and elk. And we've seen the Hornadies, we've seen the Winchesters, you know, the Remingtons, we've seen the Federals. We've killed stuff with them all, and they all do a good job.
And they'll basically perform the same.
Yeah, they all perform really similar to each other. Just the core locks were kind of the most popular, easiest to find at Walmart, you know, especially back in the day. Mm-hmm. I could pick up a box of 300 Win Mag, 180 grain at Walmart for like $34. Yeah.
The good old days.
Man, the good old days.
Right?
That's
The
why
good old days.
Say that's why I shot 30-06, 165 grain. It was like $18 a box on the shelf.
And now we've killed a lot of stuff with 270s and 30-06s and stuff. I mean, there's a 30-06 in our family that's older than Mean Weston that my dad had forever. He bought from Sears and Roebuck, and Roebuck. Yeah, it's still plenty of stuff.
So here's a question for you, kind of on this topic here. For those who are watching, they can see this beautiful rifle in front of us. And this is a Ruger American Gen 2 in 308. Rob did a lot of ammo tests through this, and we have been able to get consistently, would you say, like 0.3 of an inch group with...
Not with this one. This is about 0.6.
With the Sierras? Only 0.6?
Yeah. With this one, with the RPR, it's different.
Okay. So with this gun, we're getting 0.6 MOAs with a very specific Sierra tipped Match King gold medal military nor police edition.
It's the one I gave you a box of, Tayo, the blue tip.
Yeah, I actually have it right here. That.
Yes, that one.
That one. Would you change if Rob was to come out and hunt with you and he says, this is what I'm bringing? Would you take him on an elk hunt with that setup?
Absolutely not. Take that gun and put it in the trash.
Yeah, mostly because it's Rob. No, but
What did I do?
no. I actually, because this is like the law enforcement round, haven't had a lot of clients ever bring this or ask about it. You gave me this box so I could go test it and figure it out and see what I like. So I have not shot it yet. This law enforcement tip Match King. So I don't know. I have high hopes for it, but we'll find out. I mean, look at Jeremy's deer that he shot. That was the Match King, correct?
Yeah, that was it wasn't a tipped version. It was just your standard boat tail.
Just the standard boat tail hollow point Match King, and he just poked a hole through it.
I was nervous. I'm very grateful of the circumstances that happened because, like you guys have explained, there was no expansion on that bullet. It just went straight through.
Yeah, and that's the stigma behind hunting with match bullets is they're inconsistent. They're either going to be a full metal jacket or they're going to turn weird. I've seen match bullets hit stuff to where they hit and the tip just deforms and bends over, and you get this basically a full metal jacket that tumbles through. The match bullets have a history of doing weird things when they hit animals. Sometimes, in some brands of match bullets are very explosive, like burger bullets. Burger bullets are very accurate, but they're also highly explosive. You see the gel tests on those things, and they come back with a little tin full of fragments. There's no core like any of these that you're seeing. Even our most fully expanded 30 cal 225 grain that lost 140 grains of material is still one piece, and made it to the other side of the wound channel where the burger bullets are just incinerating, which is why we don't really like the burgers. They're probably a fantastic round if you're just to hunt deer with them, because
you're going to shoot them broadside.
Only shoot them broadside, because they're so explosive and release all of their energy quickly. So that animal is going to absorb all that energy, but you're not going to get a lot of penetration with it. Especially if you're hitting bone on the entry side, like elk quartered to you and you hit it in the shoulder bone.
I have seen a 30-06 hit an elk in the front shoulder with a burger, and it didn't get anything into the chest. Quarter two,
just all of it was gone in the first 6
same
inches.
shot with a core lock would have put that bullet through both lungs after going through the shoulder, because I've seen it do that.
And then the next day, it was a father-son combo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, you guys shot another bull
with a 7 mag with the burgers, pretty much the same angle, but he missed the bone, and one tiny flake of copper was at the diaphragm at the back of the lungs, and it hit one rib on the way in, and nothing but lungs throughout the chest, and all that's super soft and shouldn't pull a bullet apart that much.
Yeah, lungs are definitely way softer than ballistic shell.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you're having a hard time getting through lungs, I mean, what if the angle was opposite and you had to go through the gut to get to the chest because they were slightly quartered away? You know, you're not making it through that gut. You have a whole wet haystack in that gut. That elk's been eating all night, and you shoot it in the gut, and it's just going to absorb all of that bullet before it ever gets to the chest. But yeah, so kind of to bring us back to the topic of bullets we like, don't like. Those bonded lead bullets are pretty good. The ELDMs are fantastic, and by far our favorite. If we were to get into a list of other bullets that aren't our favorites or least favorites, I was actually surprised by this one. Federal Terminal Ascent.
Is that a least favorite or most, or up in the higher?
Least favorite. Yeah, it's right there next to copper.
Just last year, in December, we had 2 bull elk hunters shooting 300 Win Mags, 180 grain terminal ascents, and both of them made perfect shots and had to shoot their bulls multiple times, and the bulls were alive for at least 5 minutes. The first one was alive for about 5 minutes after both shots, and the second one at least 10 minutes after multiple shots. And
it's not the first time we've seen that.
Yeah,
that was just one example of.
That's the latest example.
And those were close range shots,
under 200 yards, and we recovered those bullets. Beautiful, just mushroom like looking thing. Looks exactly like it does on the box.
Was it a mushroom or a flower?
It was a dome.
A dome. Okay. So we don't like domes. We don't like flowers. We want mushrooms.
In my mind, it turned into a round ball. Is what it did.
It a round ball.
A rounded lead tip, didn't lose a lot of its weight, and just punched a dull hole through.
Turned into a musket.
You'd mentioned you like to see bruising, right? You like to see a good amount. Did you see any of that with that bullet?
No, just poked a hole through, like a copper bullet made out of lead.
See, now my hope is that with that law enforcement round I gave you, because it's got the polymer tip, that when it hits an animal, that polymer tip's going to help open it up like an ELDM.
That's my hope as well. And part of that's going to be is how much air is behind that polymer tip too.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it other than it shot really well out of the rifle.
I did have a hunter last year shoot a deer with the tipped Match King out of 6.5 Creedmoor, and it pencil holed through the entire chest until it hit the offside shoulder bone, and then it exploded the bone because it was still going fast enough to blow up the bone.
At what range was that?
That was 300 yards.
Yeah, the tipped Match Kings are a little bit different. So like you've got your standard Sierra Match Kings that are the boat tail hollow points, and they are a tangent shape. And the tipped Match Kings are a secant shape. They're a lot thinner and they are more pencil-y and sharp. And so I've heard that about the tipped Match Kings in particular. The reason I'm excited about the law enforcement one is it's the standard tangent shape bullet with the polymer tip. So it will perform differently than an actual tipped Match King.
Yeah, that's my hope as well. So we'll do an update once I get some testing done with those bullets, and we could probably do another video about that later too.
Back to your question about the 308 itself. If that bullet turns out to be a great bullet, the 308 itself, it's a good killing gun. But back to what we talked about before about It's not as big of cartridge. It doesn't have as much powder behind it. It's a lot slower bullet. And so when you're dealing with all the effects of nature and buck fever, it does not give you the amount of forgiveness that those larger, faster rounds will give you in a hunting situation.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, if I ever came down to hunt with you guys with this setup, I would try to stay under 400 yards with it.
Yeah, and that would be the recommendation. Yeah, that's exactly where our limit would be with you too. Because that's what that gun can comfortably do.
Say we have a lot of Eastern hunters come out that say stuff like that. I've never shot past 200 yards. I'm not going to shoot past 200 yards. I just, and they just have never done it before. They don't have the experience, but and I try to tell them, you're coming on an elk hunt out west. It's different. You can't say, I want to be an NBA basketball player, but I don't want to shoot 3-pointers. You got to have the whole deal. You got to have the whole bag of tricks. Don't limit yourself. If you're going to come out, like you said, 400 yards, that's great, 400 yards. But what about when that big bull of a lifetime is at 600 yards? He's about to duck into the trees and you're never going to see him again. You know what? We're going to look at you and be like, too bad we weren't 400 yards. Too bad you didn't bring the other gun. You'd have that bull of a lifetime right now.
Well, I mean, if it was a once in a lifetime bull at 600, I'd probably still take it with this gun, because the thing is like I have consistently with this rifle and those bullets hit a 10-inch plate at 1,000 yards with this gun. So I'm not worried about being accurate enough. It's the speed, the energy, the capability of the 308 Winchester itself that worries me past a certain point, right?
Yeah, totally.
And also shooting that at 1,000 yards, is that first round impact every time? Or are you off the plate a little bit here or there, where if you're shooting at an elk, would you hit it in the gut or the butt?
I mean, it would hit the elk every time, but yeah, I'm like 5 out of 10 on a 10-inch plate at 1,000. And that's obviously due to the elements, right? The wind changes. So where my aim has changed and I didn't notice the wind change, right? So I just hit off the right or the left instead of in the middle. And now I'm hitting the shoulder or the gut, right?
Yeah, that's where you're starting to search for forgiveness in the bullet that you have, to accommodate those element variables.
So that's why I'm hoping those bullets expand good,
And there's so many variables,
Yeah.
A lot of times if that elk's at 900 yards or that coos deer is at 600 yards, a lot of times you can't range the actual animal. It just will not pick it up, and you got to range this tree, and that tree looks like it's the same distance, but you get over there and that tree is 40, 50 yards difference. You want a caliber amount of powder in there that's not going to make a difference. It's going to make up for that. You're still going to hit the chest or the right height.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's just so many variables out in a hunting situation versus target shooting.
I think this is a good topic to lead into one of our last two questions here.
Oh, I have one before you get to that.
Okay.
We've talked about the
I love it how you guys say, we got this question, and you're already grinning and laughing because you know it's a loaded question.
It is. It's great.
We made a list and we kind of, the whole point of this is because we know just from our YouTube channel and talking about some of this stuff, right? Not as deep as this conversation's been, but we just know how controversial a lot of this conversation is because there's so many different opinions, right? And there's not, and a lot of people will claim this, that, and the other, and we don't know what kind of experience these people actually have. They're just fingers behind a keyboard to us, right? And this conversation with you guys with 31 years of experience is more beneficial and more believable and more important, I think, than what anybody we don't know behind a keyboard can give us.
And we were talking about the experience thing, and the years is impressive. Dad, how many elk kills have you been on in your life?
I'll have to go back and look at the exact number this year, but I think I ended this last season right around 580.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Wow.
I mean, people talk about the elk hunting experience they've had, you know, and all this, oh, I've shot this, I've shot that, I've done this, I've done that. Weston, how many elk kills were you on last year alone?
Last year or last season?
Season.
Yeah, season's going to be June to June.
So last season, I was on 43 elk kills personally. Watching.
In one season.
That's more than probably the average person, more than probably double to triple what an average person would get in a lifetime.
Yep.
Yes. So that's when we're answering your questions, we're digging from that kind of experience.
We should have started with that. Like, yeah, the years are there, but I mean, just so between the two of you, you know, and each of you going on different hunts because you're splitting your parties, that's thousands of animals and thousands of different experiences.
Yeah, and I tell people, yeah, it's 580 elk kills, but in those 580 elk kills, there's 500,000 times that it went wrong. That's where the experience comes from.
Yeah, you always learn best from the mistakes, right?
And that's where it comes to, like, we keep a tally of how many misses we have in a season versus how many animals killed, how many shots taken throughout the entire season. It averages out pretty closely with both archery and rifle are both 1 in 4 to 5 shots per kill. And that averages across all of our clients, right? And so on average, it takes everybody 4 to 5 shots to kill their animal. Now, some people are one-shot wonders, and we'll get 2 or 3 of those, and then we get a guy that takes 10 shots.
Or 17.
Or 17. Yeah. And so when
That's
you
the
take
average.
those outliers out, everybody's taken 3 to 5 shots to kill their animal. And sometimes it's at the same animal. Sometimes it's at 5 different animals, you know, because we only got 1 shot at the first one and it ran over the hill, whatever happened. And then we go find another one, you know, and it just depends on the hunt. Sometimes we are in the country that we want to be in, and we know what that elk's going to do. And so we missed him on this hillside. We get around in front of him a couple miles and we catch up to him. And we get another shot at him, and then we'll catch up to him the next day and get another shot at him, you know, and until we finally get that bull. It just depends. Yeah, sometimes it's 12 miles later. I've seen Weston chase a bull on foot, tracking him, and calling ahead to us, telling us where he's going, and we're doing our best to get our hunter out in front of the bull for 12 miles.
And we got in front of that bull 3 times in those 12 miles, and he missed 2 shots.
Yeah,
and one opportunity in those.
Yeah,
before finally killing.
He missed twice, and then one other opportunity where he didn't even pull the trigger when the bull was in the shooting scenario, and the gun did not get up and get fired because of safety and, you know, getting ready, stuff like that. But
you know, in all these years, people are always asking me, with all the knowledge you've gained and experience, what is the one thing you could tell me? You know, what's that one magical thing? And they're always looking for some sort of hunting tactic, special call, or something that it's just that one magical thing, you know. And over the years, I've come to realize, and I tell everybody nowadays, that it's don't miss. Imagine if you never missed, you know. I mean, imagine if that elk was running through the trees at 100 yards and you were good enough to just shoot him from the hip. If you've been hunting for a while, you have a story of the one that got away. If you've been hunting for a while longer than that, you have the story of the big one that got away. Everybody has those stories. What if you couldn't miss? What if you practiced enough, you got good enough, you didn't miss? There's people out there that shoot really well. They practice, they're the Annie Oakley or whatever, the trick shooters. A lot of people can be that good if they practice and they try. I'll go back to just an archery example I used. People, we ask hunters to know their bow out to at least 70 yards. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I'd never shoot that far. I can't shoot that far. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm like, you just haven't done it yet. Go watch the Olympics. There'd be some little girl out there with a recurve making bullseyes at over 70 yards. Don't tell me you grown man can't do that. You just haven't done it yet.
Well, that's really good advice, and really, like, we're never, as human beings, we're never going to get to perfection, right? But the amount of practice that we put behind something that we enjoy doing will make it all the easier. And I think that's probably one of the main things we should probably take away from this conversation is that, no matter what setup you're using, if you practice enough that you can make the perfect shot, it's going to go down.
Yeah. And sometimes even after you've made the perfect shot, they go, forget that, and they leave, and so even then it can still go wrong. And so that's kind of the greatest advice we can give is make it as stupid proof or as foolproof as possible, and try to eliminate as many variables as possible so that in the worst case scenario, it's still working out for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've being on our channel, this is just kind of for you guys. I've put Rob on some competitions, we called them, to replicate what a real life scenario could possibly be. So I remember one time I had Rob, we set up 3 different water jugs on the mountain about 200 yards away. And I had him walk with the gun on his shoulder, and I'd be like, 3, 2, 1, right. And then he would have to take the gun off of his shoulder, get it up there, locate the right of the 3 jugs, and try and shoot it standing. And I timed him, right? He'd be like, all right, that was 7 seconds to get the gun off, to get it on target, pull the trigger, right? And we do that. We did it 6 times, so I was able to call him out at all the different targets. And that was one that we did. We did another one where we set still out at like 100, 300, and 500 yards, and you did a 100-yard standing shot. Then we did 300-yard sitting shot, and we did a 500-yard prone shot, and kind of put the pressure on him by timing him. And it was fun to see some of those competitions. And in my head as the hunter, I'm like, hey, this is what happens. You're walking through the woods and you see a deer across the canyon 300 yards away. The only option you can do is sit on your butt and use your knees, And so it's like, practice that and try to make it a competition and have fun to get that experience so that when it happens, you get that muscle memory where you guys talked about it with your guns. It's also your positioning, understanding how to shoot off of different objects, throwing it up on a tree branch that's a little uncomfortable. How do you squat behind that, Or if you're shooting off of a tripod, have you shot off of a tripod before? Because I hate it and I suck at it. I would kick that thing to the ground and sit on my butt. But I've been in situations where the grass is too tall and I can't see, And so all of that comes into play. And as you guys had mentioned, it's that practice. If you really want it to be a successful hunt, you want to practice those scenarios and you want to spend 20 to 40 rounds doing that in your gun, I would say, at a minimum,
Yeah, and it comes down to the reminder of a lot of our clients waited a long time to get their elk tag. It's not like you can draw an elk tag every year, especially a bull tag, or even a trophy bull tag, right? A trophy bull tag in Arizona is not easy to come by less than every 5-10 years. And so these people have waited years, they've spent money, they spent thousands, and it comes down to, after you've waited all this time and spent all this money, what are you going to let stop you? You know, is it going to be you and your personal ability and lack of practice? Is it going to be the equipment you brought? Is it going to be some gizmo or gadget that's getting in your way and you're stumbling over, you know, because it looked cool on the outdoor channel, you know, whatever it is. And so we give all this advice and stuff with that experience to help people become the most lethal that they can. Because quite frankly, we're sick of hearing the big one that got away stories.
We're sick of seeing it too.
And we're sick of seeing it. But
Weston's like, I'm sick of chasing it.
Right, yeah.
12 miles on foot, guys. Come on.
Yeah. And we stopped by him a couple times and gave him food and water, and he kept going.
A couple candy bars and a swig.
The elk was to the point where there was little dustings of snow in the shade of the cedar trees. And the elk would get to the point where he would stop at one of these patches of snow,
5-foot wide patch in the shade. He'd lick up every single ounce he could and then keep running.
And then here comes Weston.
And then here comes me running up behind him.
Trucking behind.
By the end of it, you think there was 4 or 5 bulls that came out. We started out with one.
And I picked up 1 bull and then 2 more bulls. And
right at the end, there was a couple more.
At the end, there were 4 bulls total, and we ended up killing the one that we started with because he was lagging behind in the back, going slow. Yeah, and but yeah, you get these crazy stories like that. But it wasn't just him following tracks either. You know, Weston's running as fast as that elk was running, just a few hundred yards behind him, and keeping up with the tracks. It's easy to lose a track, especially without blood, you know. And Weston's just jogging along like a bloodhound, following that track because he knows what to look for, what to look for in the grass, what a partial track looks like, you know, and just sees it. And you get.
He wasn't sprinting for the whole 12 miles. But
no, but he's
I was jogging the entire
stayed
time.
on it.
Yeah.
I bet with all that, like with what you have to run through, a marathon would be easy for you.
I don't know. Solid ground probably wouldn't do very good for me.
If they had an
I
elk
agree with
in
you.
the marathon in front of him, everybody.
Then we're golden.
Threw a few bugles out for motivation.
So I just want to ask one question. We don't have to dive deep into it. Is a 338 Lapua too much?
No, that'd be cool. I love it.
I don't know of anyone I don't know personally anyone who's hunted with a 338 caliber.
I've always said there's no such thing as overkill. Just the faster something your gun will kill whatever you're aiming at, the better.
As long as you haven't developed bad habits by shooting that gun.
That's going to be the most.
If you're afraid of that gun, that's a whole nother thing.
We've been trying, like we said at the beginning, we've been trying new guns that we've been trying because it's been fun. We have a few areas that we can hunt a little differently, you know, where we can basically archery hunt with a gun in hand. And so we've taken on hunting elk with different guns. And so we mentioned earlier we hunted with 357s. Here's a couple of bullets that we pulled out of elk from those 357s. That's 158 grain XTP and at 40, 70 yards with a revolver. Those are hand loads. I got them flying. Out of my gun, they shoot like 1240 feet per second. Out of Weston's gun, they shoot 1360. 1370. Yeah. So and they're both 6-inch barrels. His is just stainless, and mine is the matte blued. Yeah, the matte black gun. So something different about his gun that shoots 100 feet per second faster. And And at the moment, my record with my 357 is 123 yards at a javelina. And then my elk.
These 357s do have red dots on them.
They do have a red dot sight on them, so I have a much smaller sight to aim with. My favorite at the moment, as far as a smaller rifle, is my 450 Bushmaster. I have a 450 Bushmaster AR pistol that's shooting subsonics.
Is that the one that we saw you shoot the Know Your Limits with?
No, that was the rifle. That's my 450 rifle. That's shooting a 250 grain FTX. The 450 pistol, I'm shooting a 395 grain sub X. And last year I killed an elk with it, and that's the bullet I pulled out of my elk. This is another one that came out of that elk. It's a semi-auto, so you get a few rounds off pretty quick.
If you're listening, it mushroomed really well.
Yeah. But these bullets, they came apart. They had excellent wound channels, and it's kind of funny because we kind of have a running joke of, well, it did better than a 6.5 Creedmoor shooting an ELDX, and we've killed elk with that. So that's the minimum standard is 6.5 Creedmoor with ELDX, and if you can do better than that, then we're confident we can kill it. Because we've killed a bunch of elk with 6.5 Creedmoors shooting the ELDX.
Mostly kids on youth hunts.
Mostly, yeah. The other 6.5 bullets are going to be 6.5 PRCs and stuff, and have yet to see an impressive wound channel from the ELDX out of the 6.5s. And so that's why we recommend those ELDMs and other bullets and bigger calibers as well, because all those are going to add up to bigger and better wound channels. Doesn't mean it can't be done. You can kill an elk with a 357 revolver, but is it what you want to bet on after you've waited so long for your tag and spent so much money to get there and to be there for the hunt, And is that what you want to limit yourself to? These bullets that we've been shooting these elk with are over-the-counter tags. It doesn't take away from my bonus points, and it's fairly close to home. Like, it's no skin off my teeth if I don't kill one, if I don't get a shot. I'll try again next year. No big deal. But for our clients, we want the very best for our clients and for them to have the best opportunity and highest chance to fill their tag.
All right. Okay. So as I mentioned before we got a little sidetracked, we have two questions. One of them is another controversial one that we smile about. And then the last one is mostly for you guys. So this is a very hot topic all over the internet. We need your opinion. 6.5 Creedmoor or 308 Winchester?
Just stay home.
You don't have any other choice.
I'm taking the 308.
Yep. 308.
Just stay home and watch Hallmark.
Looks like we're not hunting with them, Rob.
Nope, we're not hunting with those guns. All right.
Yeah, I'm taking the 308 on that one.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yep.
308 or just stay home and watch Hallmark.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So the last thing before we sign off, we want to give you guys an opportunity here because we want to make sure we promote your guys' business here. I want you to tell people that may be listening or watching, how can they contact you to get on a hunt with you, and what like the process is, all that stuff. Like what's your, I guess, sales pitch or kind of thing you want to tell the people?
First, how good of a shot are you? I'm just kidding. We can work with that. Arizona is a fantastic place. We are very blessed to live where we live. I always say people come from all over the world just to vacation where we live. And the hunting and outdoor opportunities here, so unique and so amazing and just world class. And that's why, we only have so many animals, and that's why some of these tags are hard to get. But we have lots of opportunities. There are 6 different big game tags in Arizona that you can buy over the counter every year. You can hunt in Arizona for something every year. There's a lot of tags that are very easy to draw. Some tags are hard to draw. Some tags are ridiculous to draw. But most people who know about the draw think it's just impossible, and they don't even try. Like, oh, it's going to take 30 years to get a tag. And so I asked them, well, what are you looking for? What? And I tell them, that tag might only take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. Is that worth it putting in? But it's definitely worth it. Arizona is so unique. You just got to do it. And every year we come up with a list of hunts for our hunters to apply for. And in Arizona, there's 3 draw cycles. One for elk and antelope, one for the deer and sheep, and one for the javelina and turkey. We come up with a list for our hunters to apply for, and they need to get that list from us each year to make sure that they're applying for the hunts that are going to best fit them. And if they want to hunt with us, it's going to best fit us with them. And we just put all of our experience into those choices. But as far as why to come out here, you got to experience Arizona. It's hard to put to words. It's amazing. What do you guys think?
I mean, having lived in Utah for a couple of years, I am happy to be back in Arizona. Not that Utah was bad. I just I feel a lot more liberated hunting in Arizona than I did in Utah. I got a lot more options. About the list that we put out for our clients that want to hunt with us on what to hunt for, that's not necessarily the best hunts in the state. Just a disclaimer on that. Like, that is not the list that any Joe Schmo needs to be reading to go be successful on their own elk hunt. Those are areas that we know very well and have a very fine-tuned hunting process in those areas to be very successful there. And that's why it's on our list. Another outfitter might tell you something different, and it's just what we're familiar with and what we're most confident in that we can take anybody on and still be successful for their target animal. So a little disclaimer for that, because you can take several people and put them in the same exact spot that we're in, and they may even know how to hunt pretty well, but they cannot find an elk to save their life, and we're killing bulls every day. Seen that happen plenty of times, and we're like, we've seen 17 bulls today. They're like, I haven't seen a bull all week. You're like, well, it's not due to the spot that you're in, because you're hunting all the same stuff we've been hunting.
It's just our backyard.
It's just the backyard, and we know what tree to go look under. But as far as ways to contact us, our website, TLOHunting.com. That has a lot of information on it, talking about all of our hunts. And our Facebook page is probably the easiest way to keep up with us, at Timberland Outfitters. We got a YouTube channel as well. Most of the stuff we post is going to be on Facebook, and we're constantly posting there to get updates, to keep track of the draws, stuff like that. Go follow us there, and that's a great way to keep up with us. So,
all right. So Facebook and TLO.com?
TLOHunting.com.
TLOHunting.com. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and YouTube at TLO Hunts and Instagram at TLO Hunts.
Yep.
TLO Hunts. All right.
Awesome. That's great.
We'll put all that stuff in the description as well for people to find. We want to thank you guys all for coming on and for having this long conversation with us about hunting and guiding and bullets and all the fun stuff that we've been able to talk about.
Loaded questions.
Yeah, fun questions.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we would just like to sign off by saying thank you all for listening and for watching. And you've been watching Beyond the Target with your hosts, Rob
and Jeromy.
We'll see you next time.
Later.